everyone, Fortline here, and welcome back to the channel. Yes, I'm starting this one off in a very controversial way. I am going straight to r/AskBrits and showing this image. Why? Well, more than just this image. Just the whole thing of this entire thing. Just to prove how out of touch r/AskBrits actually is in some cases. Like, I tried to have a reasonable and healthy debate. You know. To see a gauge of how many people are more likely to vote for the Green Party than Reform UK. Now, I don't want to vote for Reform UK. At this point, I'm glad that I don't have any means of voting for anyone, but when I do, and I'm gonna call my social services worker out here on this. When I do, I'm gonna be voting for Restore Britain. Sorry, but I cannot condone the genocide of Christians, even though I identify as non-binary. I know, shocking. Some people don't think that queer people should support Christian people. Ridiculous. But this is the recent post as of recording from 6 hours ago from Zach Polinsky's dentist. Oh dear God. Anyway, Green Deputy Leader Mofinelli speaking on International Women's Day. It's important to show solidarity with women across this country and across the world that are facing oppression. Do you agree? And we got an image here of this man who is clearly oppressing, I think, his wife because he's wearing a burqa. Now, again, I do want to point this out. This is not a critique on Islam, if anything. However, it is a critique on the government being hypocritical about critiquing Islam, okay? Like, sure, they might want to wear the burqa because they feel comfortable, right? But here's the thing. There are Islamic countries, such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, that have banned the burqa because of the fact that it is a security reason. Honestly, it is with his wife. Okay, I did not read that last part. Anyway, but still, I don't think Muffin should really say anything about women facing oppression if his wife is wearing a burqa. I don't know. The burqa to me seems like a sign of a very unhealthy relationship. And the fact that we're not allowed to point out the fact that even Islamic countries such as Saudi Arabia have critiqued the burqa here in this country is fucking insane. But I'm still gonna do it. Also, to my American audiences, hi. Sorry for the Canadian accent. I am British. Anyway, here's who replies. Do I agree we should show solidarity with oppressed women? Of course I effing do. feel the Green Party are playing a dangerous game. This will not end up going well for them. Honestly, fucking based. Like, on the dangerous game part, but considering what we do know now about certain people lying about their beliefs and how they feel about different beliefs, which many religions have to deal with. I mean, if you go back to history, you can even see that the Christian faith has had its fair share of death cults. Like, it's really sad to say that, especially considering nowadays when, again, I have pointed this out, even on r/AskBrits, multiple times actually, that Christians are facing a actual genocide. Oh, but no, we gotta call up the fact that the ambulance that some of our more protected groups use, or at least one protected group uses, when they claim it's supposed to be for everyone, but they don't have the freaking phone number for the ambulance services available. Had said ambulances be put on fire. Yeah, I'm not even gonna watch what I'm saying here. If our Nazi Prime Minister Keir Starmer actually cared about not getting involved in a war between Iran and Israel, those are the main two, then he would do what Rupert Lowe suggested and made sure that both parties of terrorist hive minds in their respective religions, who give said religions a bad rep. Again, I'm only critiquing the bad part here. Should be made very uncomfortable with the banning of certain things, which of course includes halal and kosher slaughter, which, from what I gathered, is going to be something very inhumane to do. Like, I haven't seen the video that the podcast of the Lotus Eaters made, so that could be a fun reaction. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, I have voted for the Green Party most of my life. I vote on ecological grounds, but any party who is comfortable with conservative religious types is not for me. See, I never ever vote there. See, it's always the heterophobes that say that it's always the conservative religious types. I mean, regardless of how you think about certain religions, that does not mean you get to commit a mass genocide of them like a certain World War II group. And you know, that's kind of sad nowadays thinking about it, because, yeah, Star is seeming to essentially look into making moves to Europe. And all I'm gonna say to Germany is, if you don't want to repeat of World War II, I'm gonna need you to ask President Donald J. Trump personally to protect you from Britain, because, yeah, you're gonna need someone who's packing guns. At this point, I don't care. You guys all got the vote that you need to, and you need to hear the people out on this. Like, we are now supporting the deportations. This guy does not want deportations whatsoever. Don't believe me, here's the recent statement that our Prime Minister has just said. But if you're watching this from Germany and you speak German, or you just live around somewhere close to Germany and speak German like Austria, which, by the way, Austria, you guys are being pretty base right now when dealing with the terrorist threat. Even if it is just from one group of terrorist high minds in a religion. But yeah, I'm gonna need to ask you guys if you don't have auto dubbing on this video to watch this in captions. Unless you got someone to translate for you, which honestly a decent translator would do, not some weirdo anime localizer. God, I hate anime localizers ruining everything. You know, if it's only matriarchy.
It's not going to be easy, clearly. And in the coming weeks, as you would expect, we will continue to assess the economic effects. We will continue to stand up for the British national interest. And we will continue to do what we must to guide our country calmly through this storm. However, it is increasingly clear that as the world continues down this volatile path, our long-term national interest requires closer partnership with our allies in Europe and with the European Union. Now we have made progress on this front, on agriculture, electricity, emissions trading, and more. But as the Chancellor has rightly pointed out, Brexit did deep damage to our economy, and the opportunities to strengthen our security and cut the cost of living are simply too big to ignore. So, in the coming weeks, we will announce a new summit with our EU partners. And I can tell you that at that summit, the UK will not just ratify existing commitments made at last year's summit. We want to be more ambitious. Closer economic cooperation, closer security cooperation, a partnership that recognises our shared values, our shared interest, and our shared future. A partnership for the dangerous world that we must navigate together. A world where this government will be guided at all times by the interests of the British people. Thank you.
You serious?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. This guy would want to scupper any progress as an actual legitimate progress that Europe has made, and now saying, you know what, yeah, we're giving you guys a vote, you have your say, and a lot of people have voted for the deportations of certain people who regardless of their religion. And I know some people are gonna bring that up as well, are gonna just commit crimes whatsoever and have no regard for the country that they choose to live in, even though they love their own country more. Which, ironically enough, should tell you more than anything that these people want to conquer your country. Which, honestly, I'm glad Europe decided to get that vote sorted out. But I also feel like, okay, we need to gauge how many people hate us, and then we make a decision that other people will hate us, kind of thing. Which is sad. Just putting it out there. And not only that, we do need to recognize Dahmer as a member of a Fabian Society, which should also count as a terrorist organization like the IRGC. And now I have talked about how easy they can infiltrate political parties. In fact, I did an entire video on a guy who did that in Restored Britain if you want to check that out. So yeah, I think I know what I'm talking about when I say, why do you want to support these crazy Delulu people? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, we don't have the means or the facilities to make sure people can take drugs as a recreational pastime, even if we do make all drugs legal in this country. Like, I don't know. That seems like a very pro-anti-life choice. Honestly, I'm more pro-life than anti-life, but pro-anti-life, that's going a step too far, man. You know what I mean? Also, sorry if I sound extra hyper today. Last night I didn't get any sleep at all, and I'm keeping myself prepped up on hot coffee. And I probably am so tired that I don't know, but I probably messed up the hot chocolate to coffee ratio. So that's fun. Back at the topic at hand, or back to the topic at hand, God, I can't speak today. Anyway, we got a comment underneath the comment, which I find kind of hilarious. Like, I don't understand. You vote for them on ecological grounds, but you don't support nuclear. I almost said nuclear. Fuck. Anyway, with that, you implicitly support releasing more carbon into the atmosphere and higher energy bills, which then leads to less manufacturing in Britain, which means more manufacturing in China where it's dirtier. How can you possibly argue voting Greens is more ecological? Is it that Green leaders and voters are ignorant to the core issue of a party? And I can't believe that they're actually eating their own at this point. Like, my God. That was something I was not expecting, but it happened either way. Honestly, I kind of feel bad for these people. Like, they literally aren't getting a proper education in places like colleges and schools and whatnot. I blame the current people in power and the establishment. Honestly. It seems that way. In Germany, there were projected to be around 90% emission-free energy production by now, but they shut off their nuclear reactors. 2022 to 2023, IRC Now they're only 60% emission-free. There's actually 7 more replies. Hang on. He's just quiet. Unless I... Oh wait, never mind. The closure of the nuclear power plants was done by the Conservative Party. The Greens just had the unlucky job of the last guy turns the lights off. I'm not blaming that on the German Green Party. I don't know enough about German politics. My point is just that we've seen how turning nuclear off is worse for the environment in other countries. So why would our Green Party advocate for that? I don't know, because word of advice. You know those solar powered panels that you have? They're gonna do a lot more harm for the environment than you actually kind of realize, buddy. From what I hear, it's mostly around the environmental damage of mining uranium, nuclear waste storage, foreign ownership, stakes, stakes. See, I can't read today. In UK power plants. Costs of building new power plants and that uranium would be a critical supply chain like oil and gas are now. I'm all for renewables and risk reduction, but nuclear is a good option to diversify our energy infrastructure so we're not beholden to oil and gas and to support growth of industry, particularly tech. Mining for fossil fuels has those same issues. Storing nuclear waste is incredibly easy in 2026, as we fully understand the risks and necessary procedures. There's also probably a lot less waste than you might think. Building more plants costs regardless of which plants they are. Having a supply chain which doesn't rely on fossil fuels would be an excellent blow to the oligarchs. You had a good thing going, but then you had to ruin it by calling people who had a different opinion than you on whatever it may be that got you so upset, spaghetti. Oligarchs. We know who it is. I could be making my meme video if I have on a back burner right now. The real difference is that there's less harmful emissions and the elites would have slightly less money. Both of these are net positives for society. Downvote. Let me downvote anyway. The agreement to close German nuclear plants by 2023 was reached in an SPD, not that one, / Green government in 2000. Neither of which are conservative. Protests against nuclear power had been happening years before there was a Green Party. Okay, I'm getting that one an updo. As with this one. It was the Greens and the SDP that... Oh wait, sorry, I thought it was... Yeah, never mind. It was the Greens and the SDP that started the program to shut down the plants. Why the frick did the other guy call it SPD? My god, dude. Okay, that's a down dude on that one. snipertories and the coal mines. Okay. Are any parties pro-nuclear? Labor has improved an SMR trial, so yes. God damn it. Rupert Lowe / Restore Britain is pro-nuclear. Thank God. I'd prefer it if it was Restore Britain over Labour. Yeah, but he wants to bring in fast... Why? Anyway. Yeah, but he wants to bring in fascism. See his quote-unquote manifesto about removing judges that don't do what he wants. What? You mean to tell me that you are going to say that you support people with the same ideology as the Green Party, wanting UK to be a dictatorship, as Cyberwaffle has I don't know why I said joint, has just pointed out. And yet, you would call Rupert Lowe a fucking Nazi. I'm just gonna say, Brits just released a video 20 minutes ago at time of recording this very fucking video. That Starmer has a twisted plan to indoctrinate school children, and it's finally coming to fruition. But no, you're going after Rupert Lowe. The same Rupert Lowe who actually does want diversity and inclusion, including diversity of thought. Like this man, even at his old age, is still willing to bend over backwards for the people of this country. Some of which don't even give a shit because they're too heterophobic as fuck and want to call him a fascist, even though Adolf Stalin and his entire Nazi mixed breed establishment are currently in charge of his entire country. Yeah, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. You guys don't care. All of you all over there on r/AskBrits. Like, I'm not even surprised. After all, Reddit has been known to be mainly a place where the far left liberals go and complain, rant, and whine about people they don't like anyway. Unless it's places that are chill, such as r/Asmongold or r/Restore Britain itself. Like, I know I got banned from r/Asmongold, but that's generally because I did not notice that they're not allowed to talk about politics on that platform anymore due to rules. But at this point, I'm sorry, you just can't say dumb stuff to people you don't like. And I know that some of you have literally wanted Asmongold to die on multiple occasions. I'm sorry. But can we just admit that in the UK, RDS does not stand for Rev Derangement Syndrome like it does in the States? It is Rationality Derangement Syndrome mixed in with a sprinkle of Low Derangement Syndrome with you guys. Oh my fucking god. In fact, I have been lacking in research because I have only heard that South places like Saudi Arabia, an Islamic country. Feel free to critique me for that if you're from Saudi Arabia in the comments. Anyway, and here's what Google has to say. Saudi Arabia has not enacted a general nationwide ban on the burqa in public. But the government no longer enforces its wear. And it has been banned in specific contexts like exam halls. The kingdom has loosened restrictions, allowing women to choose their attire, reversing previous laws that made the burqa head covering mandatory. And here are the key details regarding veil policies in Saudi Arabia. As of late 2019, the burqa and the hijab are no longer legally required in public. The specific restrictions that the Saudi authorities gave was to ban the wearing of a burqa inside exam halls, moving towards a uniform system. The voluntary wear was and I'm gonna point this out, was solely for the sake of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman having stated that women have the right to decide what type of decent and respectful clothing to wear. While legally relaxed, there are still many women in Saudi Arabia that still wear the burqa or hijab due to cultural societal norms. While some countries have banned full face veils in public, Saudi Arabia's approach is to reduce mandatory religious dress codes, not ban them outright. Even Austria has banned the burqa, but of course Google doesn't want you to know that. Luckily, I have found sources.
Something massive is happening out in Austria, and to be honest with you, I wasn't aware of how based Austria were as a country. I've spent a bit of time in Vienna, and I seen it as kind of like this progressive city, almost a liberal city. However, the country, the people that are running the place are very, very based indeed. And whilst we're having a conversation or getting slapped down of being racist in the United Kingdom for wanting a conversation to ban cousin marriage and ban the burqa in our country, well, Austria are going even further. And I want to go through exactly what they're doing with regard to sort of Islamism in their country. And you'll be very, very surprised indeed. Now, you won't be surprised by the fact that they already banned the niqab, they banned the burqa in 2017, essentially bans covering your face in public places. And that includes the niqab, burqa, and any clothing hiding identity. Fines around 150 euros. As I said, that's already in place. But they're going further. They're going actual further here, guys. And they're actually looking to ban headscarves. Now, back in 2019, a law was actually struck down. And what they wanted to do was ban headscarves in primary schools and wanted to target Islamic dress specifically. And it was overturned by the court for discrimination. However, they have updated this new law and they are going ahead with banning headscarves for girls under the age of 14 in schools. And that applies to public and private schools. And the government says that it protects girls, promotes gender equality. And this is now being deemed as one of the most controversial laws or policies in all of Europe. I want to have you to have a listen as to why they're doing this. But don't go anywhere. After that, we've got a ton of stuff on what they're trying to do to fight back the Islamification of their country. And the UK should be taking a leaf out of this, guys. If you haven't already, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more.
Heute gelingt uns ein historischer Schritt, wenn es den Schutz von Mädchen geht. Und ich möchte in diesem Zusammenhang auch festhalten und es einmal mehr unterstreichen, dass das Kopftuch an Kindern kein einfaches religiöses Symbol ist. Es ist auch kein harmloses Stück Stoff. Es ist ein Zeichen der Unterdrückung und dagegen wehren wir uns als Gesellschaft und genau dafür müssen wir als Politik die richtigen Rahmenbedingungen setzen.
Das natürlich eine Abwägung von Grundrechten ist, nämlich dem Grundrecht auf Religionsfreiheit, aber auch dem Grundrecht von Kindern auf ihre Kinderrechte, auf ihre persönliche Entfaltung und Entwicklung, unabhängig von gesellschaftlichen, familiären oder auch Zwängen im Freundesumkreis. Und man muss feststellen, dass die Zwänge gegenüber jungen Mädchen deutlich zugenommen haben. Nicht nur vom Familienumfeld, sondern auch von jungen Burschen, die aus religiösen Gründen anscheinend anderen vorschreiben wollen, wie sie sich zu kleiden haben. Und deshalb in dieser Grundrechtsabwägung ganz klar für die Freiheit der jungen Mädchen.
Now that's the reality here, guys. You know, that's what it's all about when we're talking about the burqa. Obviously, it's a national security threat, but of course as well, you know, it's oppressing women. How many people are forced to wear that? And this is a country with common sense and, of course, looking to ban headscarves. Look where we are as a country, where we can't even talk. I'm talking about the UK. There might be some international viewers, but the UK can't even have a conversation without being struck down as racist for banning cousin marriage and banning the burqa. And look what other countries are currently doing. Look what the EU have just brought in with regard to deporting illegal migrants, and we're just sat here all alone. But when it comes down to Islam as well, they've been based for a very, very long time, Austria. Now, for those of you that didn't know, Islam law, control of mosques and funding, this is a big one that people miss. Basically, a law in 2015 in Austria has banned foreign funding for mosques and Islamic groups, forces Islamic organizations to be financially independent inside Austria, and that's aimed at stopping foreign influence within their country. There's also mosque closure and imam expulsions. This is not just law, this is actual enforcement in Austria. Austria have closed several mosques, they expelled foreign-funded imams, and their justification for that was the crackdown on political Islam and radicalization. Now, also, they do monitor political Islam in Austria. They go further than most countries here. They've created structures to monitor Islamic organizations and track ideological influence. And their focus is specifically on political Islam, not just the religion, but the perceived political influence. We're seeing that in real time in the United Kingdom. And you're hearing some of these imams coming out and saying this is the modern day jihad. But Austria have got this stuff under control. Now, integration policies that are tied to Islam. Some policies aren't directly about Islam, but affect Muslims heavily. Examples, mandatory integration programs for migrants in their countries. Now, there's pressure to learn German and, of course, adopt Austrian values. And these are often bundled with debates around Islam because you see it in the UK, you see it in other parts of Europe. The people that aren't assimilating are from that religion. So they're very, very big on the emphasis that someone has to learn German and adopt the Austrian values. And I think this is beautiful. I genuinely, I've been to Austria. I'm a big, I've been to Switzerland quite a lot. Love Switzerland. And I wasn't aware, I'm sure I knew that Austria had a right-wing sort of government, but I kind of looked at Austria based on Vienna, and I went to Vienna and it was kind of like a progressive liberal city, so to speak. And I thought, oh God, I thought this was kind of, you know, they were going to live in like the way we are, but their laws, my goodness me, they aren't messing around whatsoever when it comes to this stuff. But, you know, the 2015 migrant crisis completely changed everything for Austria. And this was the starting point for most of these policies. And during the European migrant crisis, Austria did take a large number of migrants, many from Muslim majority countries. And that triggered a lot of concern about integration. And there was a lot of crime and cultural change in their area. And of course, the security concerns. If you think back at 2020, the Vienna attack reinforced a lot of stuff with regard to radicalization and political Islam. And this is important because their government, instead of just burying their heads in the sand, they went further and faster to actually solve the issue that was going on in their country. Now, us as a country, look how far we are behind. We can't even raise a conversation about banning cousin marriage in our country. Insane. Look where they're going. They're now talking about headscarves. They're banning headscarves for children under the age of 14 in their country because they think it's oppressive.
See, even Austria thinks it's oppressive. A country that is part of the European Union, by the way. So, yeah. I don't know. If we do join the European Union, it's a 50-50 chance that Europe will make Britain better, or Starmer's gonna make Europe worse at this point. Like, we already know what he wants. And I keep saying it. And I hate to be the one to bring doom and gloom on this, but if this is going to be how we have to make servers of regime change, I'd say let the President of the United States of America commit an act of political violence and bomb the Houses of Parliament and the House of Lords. No, seriously. You know what? I'm not gonna release my breath. Let's just continue on. In fact, my outburst is quite understandable, as I have actually posted on r/Restore Britain massive anger as people of Christian faith were arrested for prayer. I've even linked a video by Andy the Gabby Cabby, and I even pointed it out as best as a freelance journalist nowadays is. Like, we don't even use some mainstream media. Sure, it only has 8 updates, but look at the number of views it has. And here's what Valuable Self 8564 had to say on the entire thing. I'm telling you, it's not going to be long until people get violent if we don't have priority under the law. And I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And Restore Britain, I think it's best if they actually restore Britain. And that does include the British Constitution. Because for decades now, we've been watering down what the British Constitution is, with countless different laws and acts. And trying to tear the Constitution apart that we have here in Britain. In fact, it's the British Constitution that was, if you will, a foundation for the American Constitution. And by that I mean the American English Constitution. So, I don't know why we're scuppering our special relationship with America outside of we're under a fascist regime by the likes of Keir Starmer or everyone on the far left. And they are the actual fascists here. It's very rarely I call anyone fascist unless they're on the far left at this point. Like, and even then, you're gonna hear me call Starmer out for acting like the one thing if I may point out that a lot of people, even in his own family of a certain religion's heritage, have feared during World War II. You hate to see it, really. And to add on to the point from a little while before, I have never seen any of Restore Britain's policies that are, fascist, unlike the current establishment in power. I mean, sure, I can critique Austria and America for still wanting digital ID and social media bans for people. But I think we're doing a pretty good thing with having Restore Britain do the same thing as Japan, really. Like, wanting to properly educate people about internet safety, not this digital ID BS. Honestly, pretty based. And besides, as long as people are actually decent, the less likelihood of NHS staff being, harassed and abused by people who generally don't give a shit about following the laws of the land, the fucking better. Like, I am bringing this one back up because, yeah. How is this okay? How is any of this okay?
Remember this, Sam. All girls are bi. You just need to find out if she is bipolar, bilingual, bisexual, or just a